The Lovers Pentacle, Chapter 8. Four of Pentacles. That's debatable, said Bruno, debating the subject. Maybe you got attacked by a muggers, and a few hours later you got attacked by... and then a few hours later you got attacked... Maybe you got attacked by a mugger, and a few hours after you got attacked, Eugenia's dog walker was assaulted by a man with a bat. Sounds familiar? The two attackers could be one and the same, said Malik, agreeing with Bruno's reasoning. The manhunt continued, and Bruno and Carina stayed in the hospital with Malik in order to guard him. And while Carina caught up with Lorraine and Rosanna, and Malik's parents divorced when he turned 16, and Elsa had remarried, and he lived in Orlando with a younger woman. And their marriage had lasted longer than it should have since to Ariel. Ariel was Rosanna's youngest daughter and Malik's half-sister, and she was safe in Orlando with her father and his new family. After giving his declaration, Malik fell into a deep slumber, and the doctor came in with Malik's charts, and he had passed out due to an untreated concussion. He was free to go home, or he could continue occupying the hospital bed for a fortune. Malik asked to be discharged, and on the way out of the hospital, Carina noticed that they were being followed. She turned around to confront the stalker, and the man froze on the spot. Balthazar, yelled Carina with a haughty tone she employed when talking down to men bigger than herself, and her defiant tone had the desired effect, and the color left Balthazar's face, and Carina smiled thinly, quite pleased to have terrified the stranger. Those surrounding Malik began to hyper-focus on Balthazar, and he was a tall, lanky, freckle-faced youth, 19 years old, with monolith brown eyes and ginger hair, and he had spent his entire life focused on his ambition of becoming a painter. Though as a safety net, he was starting to be a teacher. A new faded night had awakened in Balthazar's desire. A new faded night had awakened in Balthazar desires he had ignored his entire life, and he neglected his studies to become Malik's shadow. And if he drew or painted anything new, it was to immortalize Malik's beauty. And without his sisters holding his hand, he suffered from extreme social anxiety. With trembling hands, he began to gesticulate, and Bruno, who knew sign language, translated for the others. I found Malik passed out on the floor, so I took him to the hospital. Bruno, you know sign language, said Carina, genuinely impressed. Bruno said nonchalantly, I am always looking to expand my clientele. Did you see the face of the man that attacked Malik? Asked Rosanna. I found Malik passed out on the floor, gesticulated Balthazar, so I took him to the hospital. I find that hard to believe, seeing as how you have an act for finding me everywhere I go, protested Malik. He probably hacked your cell phone, suggested Carina. Did you hack my cell phone? Asked Malik. No, I have been following you the old-fashioned way, gesticulated Balthazar. Why are you stalking my grandson? Asked Lorraine, placing his hand on Malik's shoulder. There is something I need to tell your grandson. When I was finally able to build up the courage to speak to him, he returned to America. So I flew after him as soon as I settled my affairs in London, explained Balthazar, and he added, instead of worrying about me, shouldn't you be focusing on the dangerous psychopaths who attacked your grandson? The diversion worked, and those assembled started to converse about the bag-wielding psychopaths, and they were so engaged in the conversation that nobody noticed Balthazar getting inside Lorraine's minivan. It was not till Roxanne served dinner that she realized that she had allowed her son stalker into her house. It's fine, Mom, said Malik dryly. This isn't the first time you had allowed a stalker to intrude in our domain. Carina doesn't count as a stalker, said Rosanna. When a woman stalks a man, it is called courtship. When a man stalks a woman, it is called harassment, said Malik dryly. How is the double standard fair, Mother? Are you ever going to let that go? Said Rosanna, rubbing her temple. I already let that go, and you're the only one who's still hung up on Carina, scoffed Malik. She broke up with me. Not with you. You haven't had a real girlfriend since you broke up with Carina, and when are you going to fall in love again? Is it your plan to stay single forever? Insisted Rosanna. Enough, Rosanna, hissed Lorraine, punching the table. Rosanna flinched, and she became as quiet as a mouse. And Lorraine sighed, regaining control of his emotions, and he patted Rosanna's hand lovingly until the color returned to his daughter's cheeks, and he added, I am sorry, Treasure, I did not want to raise my voice. It is just that the boy suffered a brain concussion, and the doctor says that he needs to rest physically and most importantly, mentally. I'll be good, Daddy, said Rosanna, pouting. The dinner progressed in utter silence, and in order to break the tension, Lorraine attempted to converse with Balthazar. What are you studying, Salazar? Balthazar, gesticulated Balthazar, and then he sighed when he realized that nobody there spoke sign language. And he brought out a cue card with his name, and he held it up he held up a different cue card that said Art. And where are you from? Asked Mally. Lambert, Philadelphia, said Balthazar, holding up a cue card. He didn't say, he just holds up cue cards with the answers already written. Are you studying in Greenwich, or did you just go there for a semester? Asked Mally. Balthazar brought out a writing pad from his pocket and he wrote, I was doing a semester in London to broaden my horizons, but then I decided to take a small sabbatical. To stalk me full time, said Malik, narrowing his eyes. I'm sorry, wrote Balthazar. Nobody attempted again to make conversation, and Mally showered before going to bed early, and Balthazar was given one of Mally's pajamas, and he was allowed to sleep in Ariel's room. And at night, Rosanna and Lorraine took turns patrolling the perimeter, and every hour they would check up to see if Malik was still breathing. Malik was sleeping like a log thanks to the suppository that Carina had gifted him, and the following morning there was good news. Tiba had escaped his captor, and the stolen cat had run back to Eugenia's house. Tiba knew how to open doors, and his captor had forgotten to lock it, so this allowed Tiba to jump at the handle. And he used his full weight to open the door, and beneath his claws Tiba had a piece of fabric. And the little guy loved to scratch at carpets and furniture, and the fabrics were analyzed, and the investigators were able to derive the type of sofa. And after doing some research, finally discovered that these couches were common in Miami motels. Kain narrowed down the search by looking for pet-friendly motels. And he also looked for motels that had doors that went electronic or auto locking. The cats rated a motel that had the types of doors that could easily be opened that would be easy for a cat to open. In their surprise raid, they didn't find Dorothy's dog Misa. They did arrest a couple of drug dealers and a human trafficker. A local mentioned seeing a guy walking a chihuahua and a hairless cat, and Kain got a description of the thief without his mask from an eyewitness, and the sketch was ran through the database of known criminals. It also made it to the 6 o'clock news. And the more time that passed, the more pressure Kain felt not only from his co-workers, but from his family and friends. He had to find Misa to make Eugenia happy. He had to arrest the man who had hurt Malik and Jeremy to make his friends happy. Kain decided to use Coco again, and Coco always followed the central left by the alpha of her pack, Misa. They put a caught the scent of the Chihuahua Misa, and she followed it all the way to the perp's hiding spot. The guy was hiding out in Sebastiano's studio, and the cops surrounded the place, and a Farley signal they raided the place, and the artists were in the middle of painting a nude from life when they were all surrounded. I am so sorry, Kain said Santiago when he was being handcuffed. Our model told us he was over 18, and we had no idea he was a minor. We are not here for that, said Kain, and for your sake I hope that your model's an adult. This is all Eugenia's fault, protested Santiago, and ever since she started dating this pig, there hasn't been a day when we're not harassed by the police. Let me see your legs, Santiago, ordered Kain. Do you want me to bend over backwards as well, protested Santiago, raising his pen. And when Kain verified that Santiago didn't have a dog bite, he was released from custody. What is it that you want from me? He asked. You are not the one we're looking for, said Kain. And what do you come here for? Asked Santiago. I am looking for Misa, Dorothy's Chihuahua, and have you seen her? Asked Kain. I have seen hundreds of Chihuahuas that look like Misa. Fine Chihuahuas are pretty common around the aristocracy, said Santiago. Did you see anyone with a fine Chihuahua and a Sphinx cat? Asked Kain. A Sphinx cat, asked Santiago, raising an eyebrow. You know those creepy hairless cats, said Kain. Here's a recent picture of Tibalt. There are so many beautiful cats in the world, said Santiago. And what possessed you to adopt one that has more in common with a rodent? The cat isn't mine, said Kain, and Tiba got stolen along with Misa, but he managed to escape. He is a very clever cat. And one of our resident artists came in the other day with a dog and an ugly cat, said Santiago, suddenly becoming extremely cooperating. And Santiago took Kain to the artist's room, and inside a doggy cage they found the Chihuahua. Santiago called Misa by her name, and the dog responded to it. Santiago, laughing, said, Eugenia's one piece of work, and she moved heaven and earth just to get her sister's doggy back. We didn't do this just to get Misa back, explained Kain. Eugenia's dog walker got bludgeoned by the thief, and the previous night he hurt someone in a failed robbery attempt. And what do you think is the motive? Asked Santiago, demanding more details. I don't know, said Kain. I'm just a forensic artist, and they don't pay me to think. And if I had to guess, the thief probably needed money for drugs, or maybe he had a gambling debt, or a sick grandma, or maybe he needed to pay rent, or he needed money for new art supplies. Kain was dismissed for the day, and Ken felt that his nephew had done enough work. Kain took Misa to Eugenia's house to personally deliver the doggo, and Dorothy was the one to open the door, and she slathered Kain's face with kisses before retrieving her little doggy. So they caught the guy, asked Dorothy shyly. They caught a guy, said Kain, measuring his words. The perp had a bat. The bat has Jeremy's blood, and he had your dog, and he had Coco's bite mark on his leg, and he also had a reason to harm your family. How so? Asked Dorothy, worried. He was a former intern of your father that got fired for doing literally absolutely nothing, said Kain. I get why he stole my dog, said Dorothy. I just don't get why he attacked your friend. Miley dresses well, and it's easy to imagine that he has money, and since he was distracted and walking home by himself, he seemed like an easy target. And he also works for your father, guessed Kain. Miley doesn't seem like an easy target to me, commented Dorothy before kissing her doggy. This matter might require further investigation, said Kain more to himself. The investigation came to an end, and the pair confessed to both crimes, and the case received moderate media attention. And Alessia too wrote about the case, and his article mainly focused on Kain's contribution to the cause. Kain had done some actual police work, and finally was at peace for the time being, and he was envious of the fact that Kain had stolen all of the media attention once again. The following day, Kain and Siddhartha were once again gathering around the light boat. Finally turned off the light in the kitchen before saying, Stop fooling around and get to work. Yes, sir, said Siddhartha mockingly before doing a martial salute. Yes, sir. Kain fiddled, finding a hilarious mimic Siddhartha saying, Yes, sir, yes, sir. At ease, soldier, said Kain, entering the kitchen. Finally, why don't you first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly enough to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. Are you calling me a hypocrite? Hissed Farley. You said it, not me, said Kain noncommittedly. I wish to go on patrol, Uncle, said Kain, changing the subject. As you wish, said Kain. Drive carefully, Kain. Kain drove to his father's workplace, and he told Ayuna and Jack of his suspicion, and Kain was worried that there was still somebody dangerous hounding Malik. And to assist in the investigation, Ayuna lent Kain the cheapest, ugliest card in his lot, and Kain brought out from his trunk the oldest, shabbiest outfit he owned, and once he finished cosplaying as a homeless man, he drove to Michael's office to keep an eye on Malik. And a security guard, noticing the shabby-looking card, noticed the shabby-looking card immediately, and when the cops came for Kain, he flashed his badge and he informed his colleagues that they ruined his stakeout operation. He tried again, only this time Dorothy informed her father's security guard that Kain was cosplaying as a homeless man. The week came to an end, and Rosanna decided to host a party to celebrate Maddie's good health, and she was feeling a little overprotective of her oldest chicklet. And she wanted Maddie to move back home where he would be safe. Addie returned from her visit to her father's house, and Maddie felt more like a father than a brother to his 12-year-old little sister. And she was the only reason why he ever bothered to visit. She was the only reason he ever bothered to visit his mother's house. And Nadia had golden curls like her mother and green-blue eyes, and her mother was busy with the preparations, and there was a knocking on the door. And Lorraine wearily left the couch to open it, and he didn't bother to look through the peephole, and he had guilted Kain into rekindling his friendship with Maddie. Maddie had no true friends anymore, and all he had were drunkards he would party with. Kain shyly sat down beside Malik, and his former childhood friend was busy playing video games with his sister. The two were strumming a plastic guitar while sitting on the couch. And thank you for looking out for me, even though you didn't have to, said Malik. That's what friends are for, said Kain, giving a fake smile. Spare me your hypocrisy, Kain, whispered Malik. If there is one thing I always hated about you, was that stupid fake smile. I'm sorry, said Kain, pouting. Is this better? I can find a lot more if it makes you happy. There's nothing you can do to make me happy, said Malik dryly. What's eating you up? Asked Kain. Since when do you care about me? Hissed Malik, and Kain waited a moment, and then Malik eventually said, Mother wants me to move back with her, but the last few days she has reminded me of the reason why I chose to study abroad. Must be nice to have a mother who worries about you so much, said Kain. How about if we trade mothers then, said Malik. You don't really mean that, Malik, protested Kain. If your mother died, I bet you would be pretty sad. I was under the impression that Grandma Esther was your mother. She's the woman who raised you, is she not? Asked Malik. Yes, she's the only woman who was a mother to me, said Kain. So how about it, Kain? Do you want to trade your classic mother for a newer model? Asked Malik. It would be nice to try a new mom for a week, said Abby, who missed Esther's home cooking. I am happy with what I have, said Kain, smiling shyly. There was a new knocking on the door, and Kain sprung from his seat to allow Carina and her entourage to enter the living room. And coming along for the ride was Bruno, 13-year-old Kai, and his little sisters, Anna and Hannah. And since Ario was starting to show an interest in boys, her mother had arranged display day. Kai was completely oblivious of the nature of his visit, and he sat down beside his Uncle Kain to watch the game. And Malik handed the plastic guitar to Kyle, and Kyle's sister went to play with dolls with Ariel. Carina tapped Malik's shoulder, and the two went outside to speak, and Carina said, I want us to be at peace. Even if we're completely incompatible as a couple, I want to be your friend. I am tired, Carina, said Malik wearily. Too much time has passed. Retreading the past isn't going to bring us the peace that we desire. Please, Malik, insisted Carina. No, Carina, you had your chance to be my friend a decade ago, but you wanted to jump straight into a relationship. And when we broke up, you became a total psycho bitch, and you spoke bad about me to everyone who had ears to listen. And you even had your witch friend cast a curse on me, said Malik, and I don't want to be your friend. You reap what you sow, Carina. You also reap what you sow, Malik, hissed Carina. And why did you cheat on me? I need an answer. I need closure, Malik. I don't know why I did it because I don't remember much of what happened after you left with Kain, said Malik, sighing wearily. I should have left with you that night, but I didn't want to go home to hear my parents screaming at each other at the top of their lungs. This wasn't the answer that Carina wanted, but it was the answer she got. Malik returned to the living room and he sat down beside Kain to watch him play with his nephew Kyle. Do you make peace with Carina? Asked Kain. No, it is impossible to make peace with a past that cannot be changed. And what are you still doing here? Asked Malik. I am babysitting my nephew and my nieces, said Kain, pointing to Kyle. Can you do that elsewhere? Protested Malik. Malik was about to say more, but he flinched when he felt his grandfather's hand on his hair. Malik clenched his fist while he hyperventilated. When he could no longer tolerate his grandfather's physical affection, Malik locked himself in his bedroom. Lorraine sat down beside Kain in order to soak, and at times like this, Lorraine would look to Raphael for guidance. And since his best friend was dead, he used Raphael's grandson Kain as a poor substitute. I don't know where we went wrong, said Lorraine, sighing. Kain stayed quiet, uncertain about what to say to that statement, and Lorraine sighed again before continuing. It was a mistake to force Malik to be your friend, and I wanted to make your grandpa so happy, but his happiness came at the expense of my grandson's happiness. Don't beat yourself over, said Carina, sitting beside Lorraine. If anyone were in Malik, it was probably his father. Malik only started getting wasted when his parents started fighting, and he was suffering because his parents were divorcing, and I was too busy partying with him to notice that he had transitioned from social drinker to alcoholic. Don't forget, Carina, said Kain, and we all went to the same parties, and Malik and I only ever had 2 beers, and you, on the other hand, was always drinking and drinking and drinking. Sheesh, Kain, don't tell Grandpa Lorraine my dirty secrets, poor Carina. Oh, I admit it. I drank more than the average maiden, but I had never passed out drunk, though. That ill-fated night, I did get rather close. What happened? Asked a bored Kyle while he mindlessly played with his plastic guitar. Adults are talking, said Kain, bringing out his headphones, and he placed headsets on Kyle's ear, and he connected them to the television. And once Kain verified that Kyle wasn't listening, he continued with the adult conversation. Kain leaned back on the couch, and he narrowed his eyes as he often did when he tried to recall something, and the two friends discussed the night of the infidelity. Alright, this is a good place to leave it. Bye-bye and God bless.